Welcome to our second video in our channel presenting the theory of enhancement. Today we'll be talking about dark matter and anti-dark matter. But all in all, we should start from the point where everything is held, because mass, as it is understood, as it is known to be a shapeless body of matter, it is the one thing that is holding the universe that we know, the universe that we live in. And this entire work is focused and actually making sure that it explains this in a manner that can be understood, that will eventually be understood. Why do we say that mass is the one thing that holds everything else? It's because we understand now that everything else comes from one thing. It is not possible that everything that we have and live in as an environment comes from nothing, because then we will not be able to account for gravity. But if we take things from the point where there's this one thing, this shapeless body of matter that goes through certain processes that leads to where we are today, then it starts to explain a lot of things that we observe and can understand as we continue to study. Therefore, mass is held by the root force, which is the force that is full of potential. The root force is the force that holds mass at rest. This is the force that will hold mass as it is a shapeless body of matter, and when it has eventually transformed itself completely to light, the root force will still be there, holding light still. The subliminal law of motion is the law that is governing the decay of mass at this level, because eventually mass gets into motion as a result of the subliminal law of motion. So these two things tell us exactly why eventually we have mass moving forward. And this helps us therefore to understand that we cannot have a situation where we do not account for gravity, because we have to account for gravity in a manner that can be proven, in a manner that can be followed through mathematically and practically. As mass decays, the first wave of dark matter forms, as we can see here, and we experience the first bang. This first wave of dark matter follows the first law of motion, and therefore, as you can see, the two arrows here are showing us the energy release during this first bang, and therefore it leads to the formation of the second wave of dark matter following the second law of motion, which will only be fulfilled if the other flow of energy is balanced, where the first wave of anti-dark matter is formed and we experience the second bang, because the two waves are balancing each other. And now, as we continue here, we realize that from the second wave of dark matter and the first wave of anti-dark matter, we now have the third wave that has formed on dark matter and the second wave that has formed on anti-dark matter, and these lead to the Big Bang. As I said earlier, the arrows there showing the release in energy, they are also showing us the movement of gravity, and clearly gravity is moving towards the Big Bang. Gravity is moving towards the formation of the nucleus. Hence, the nucleus will continue to experience the crushing pressure of gravity, and then it will have to act in a certain way where it has its own forces and its own motions that fights against gravity. What we're going to observe here are the laws of motion. Here, the first wave of dark matter is formed and fulfills, giving us the first bang. The first wave of dark matter fulfills following the first law of motion. And as the second wave of dark matter comes in, it is formed from the release of energy as shown by the arrows again, where we observe the second wave of dark matter and the first wave of anti-dark matter. The second wave of dark matter is fulfilled through the second law of motion. However, the balance between this wave and the first wave of anti-dark matter is fulfilled by the supportive law of motion, work that has been discovered through the theory of enhancement. So, without the supportive law of motion, there cannot be this part to be observed. However, it's still clear that even the second law of motion will not fulfill because it won't balance. Where will the other energy go then? So, upon the fulfillment of the supportive law of motion and the second wave of dark matter, where the second law of motion is fulfilled, we experience the second bang. Then we start to see the third wave of dark matter being balanced by the second wave of anti-dark matter. The third wave of dark matter fulfills the third law of motion, meaning here these are now reaching a balanced state. This is the abstract structure of it. Now you can see the force coming together to form the Big Bang. This is where we have our particles forming, and that is where we have our antiparticles forming. The arrows also show us the movement of gravity. So gravity is crashing on the formed nucleus during the Big Bang, whether it's on matter or antimatter. So it is very important that we notice and understand that there is a point where things come from, and there is a motion, as it is already known. The force of gravity is fulfilling this motion of dark matter and anti-dark matter. And this entire work is supported by the theory of enhancement paper that has been published. The final slide will just be showing the model of the theory that you can also check out to make sure that you continuously understand, and you can ask me questions about the work. I'm very much open to discuss, irrespective of how challenging or awkward the work can be. We are now looking at the model of the theory of enhancement, whereas always the theory says that the universe is held by mass. So it simply says that everything comes from mass. And as we can see here, we have dark matter on this side and anti-dark matter on the other side, balancing each other. The waves we have already accounted for how the waves formed and the laws that are involved in balancing these waves. So what I can say here is that at this point, this is where we are first experiencing the root force and the subliminal law of motion, which leads to the decay of mass, and therefore we can see gravity pushing things through to the formation of the nucleus. Here is where the nucleus of particle is formed and balanced by the nucleus of antiparticles on the other side. However, before the process of enhancement can continue to go and form electrons and positrons, we have a situation where some quantum particles are there below the nucleus, and these particles are the quarks and so forth. They are formed following all the waves that have been formed by dark matter. So it is a transformation of mass before it can be expressed on another level of balance where the nucleus is enhanced. So the quarks are experiencing a lot of gravity because they are transformed properties of the third wave of dark matter. And the photons are experiencing lesser than the quarks. As you can see, the light as well is experiencing lesser than the photons transporting it. Now we get to a point where we see mass being totally transformed into space, nothingness. Here there's no gravity at all. So now, once these are fulfilled at this point during the Big Bang, we can now therefore see the enhancement of the nucleus from the particle side and the enhancement of the nucleus from the antiparticle side, where we form the positron and the electron. And this goes on because we have the table of nuclear enhancement that is responsible to show us how this happened, and we'll do that soon after concentrating on the formation of the nucleus. It means it will be the video after the next. So here the other thing that we can look at on the summary of this model is that the forces involved in the entire theory of enhancement are five. First, the root force, the gravity force, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, and the electromagnetic force. These are the forces that we find to be responsible for the formation and enhancement of the universe. And the laws responsible, we find 6 laws. Of the already known laws, we have added 2 laws here because we have observed how the things happen here and find that they have to be accounted for in this manner. The subliminal law of motion and the supportive law of motion are the laws that have been added here. So this is the the summary of the entire work, the model. Do get in touch. Let's communicate. Let's engage, and leave your comments. Thank you.